20 Minutes on Ice, powered by the Garage Door Sports Network. I'm your host, Ryan, and as always, in the co host position is Nick. Welcome to the first show of the year, and it's going to be a great show. If you're watching on Twitch, thanks for joining us live. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit that like button and the subscribe button. That really helps us out. If you've downloaded the podcast for your ears, thank you. We've got a great show coming right at you, so let's get right to our opening face-off. Today on 20 Minutes, it is season preview time. We're going to be running through the season previews. Today is the Pacific Division. We're going to be coming at you later this week with the Central, and then we'll flip over to the Eastern Conference next week, all in time to get you ready for the regular season, which starts first week of October. Plus, we're also going to be going over a few of the Pacific Division storylines like Quentin Byfield, Zach Hyman, Evander Kane, and more. But joining me in all of this is the greatest co-host in the history of time, Nick McVicker. Nick, how's it going today?
Such kind words, Ryan. Such kind words. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, they were written on the outline here. I don't know who did that, but I
don't have access to the outline, folks. It's not me, clearly.
How was your off season, Nick?
Busy. I finished the CBC thing. Been working 9 to 5 at the gym, and recently got hired at TSN 1050. So
perfect. That's super exciting.
Yeah, so good place to be, I think, right now as the hockey season starts up. So I'm excited to keep it going, man.
Yeah, and you're gonna have a lot of focus on live events, NHL and
hopefully, yes, yeah. Gotta kind of feel my way out for the first little bit to figure out exactly what's going on. But that's the goal. Yeah, that's hopefully where I end up.
Perfect. That's super exciting. So,
how about you, Rye? How was your off season?
As far
other than golfing.
Golfing. Okay, so I set my goal to break 100, and I can't do it. So I've given up on that goal.
You also didn't golf as much this year as you did last year.
Yeah, I know, but 8 to 10 rounds should be enough to at least break 100. It
not in happen. 2 years. No, it's not. It took me 12.
So we'll see. We'll see where that goes. But as far as hockey goes, I really felt like I needed this off season. This was one of the first off seasons where I really felt I needed the break from hockey.
Fair.
Not that I got burnt out last year, but I think it's the 2 seasons. It's from 2 seasons ago where they were in the bubble for the playoffs, and that went right into last September, and then we quickly started up the next season, and that was jam-packed. So I just think it almost was hockey overload, and now here we are. Got my son going through rep tryouts, got my daughter, she's starting her league soon, so hockey is in full swing.
Full swing, he says. Full swing. Hey, I got mine starts up on Friday, so
perfect. Yeah, and I got my beer league hockey going too. So
you're week 3 though. I'm starting on Friday.
I was really happy actually that we started early. That's the tough part. If you have like a mid-October start and every other hockey has already started all around you, like my daughter's going to be the last one to start up amongst us all. But it is hockey season. We are here.
Yeah, we are.
Let's get started, Nick, on some Pacific Division storylines. Let's start in Los Angeles. And 2 drafts ago, they drafted Quentin Byfield. Was that a second or third overall pick?
He was second.
He was second. So
right, and I believe so.
Second or third? I don't remember exactly.
Okay, hold on. I'll look it up. You keep talking.
He's touted to be a quality player, a very high quality player for the Los Angeles Kings. He did have some time in the AHL last year. 32 games with the Ontario Reign, 20 points, 8 of those goals. So he has proven at a pro level that he can put up some numbers.
In 32 games, not bad.
Yeah, 20 points in 32 games. Now they were playing the same group of teams, but whatever. It's still production at a pro level. So I would expect him to make the Kings this year, but what kind of numbers can we expect from Quentin Byfield? I got the Hockey News right in front of me, and they're projecting him at 28 points for the season. I feel like he might be a little higher than that. What do you think?
28 points seems low, but let's not forget that this draft class wasn't exactly, I wouldn't say this was the strongest draft class we've seen in the last little bit. Lafreniere obviously went first, Byfield went second, and Stützle went third. That was your top 3, remember, Ryan. I was really high on Stützle. I thought he was ready to make the jump. And And we saw Lafreniere struggle last year with the Rangers putting up only 21 points in 56 games. I say only 21 points as if that's bad, but like everyone expected so much from him. So if we're saying 28 for Byfield is what you said,
That's what the Hockey News projects.
I could see 28 or maybe like I think the highest I would go is maybe 40 right now in a full
Yeah,
82 game season. I think that's a realistic for his first NHL pro season. Just because he does need to take that next step, and so does Lafreniere, I think. And if Lafreniere can get to, let's say, 50, I think that's a successful season for him. And obviously, we'll talk about that when we get to the Rangers. But we have to compare the two because they went number 1 and number 2 in the draft. So 40 points, I say, is like maybe 50 points is the highest. 40 points is the highest on the realistic end. And then maybe a low 30s, high 20s is a realistic goal for Quinton Byfield. And I think that's comfortable for the Kings. They're growing. They're trying to get better.
I think, and he's going to be slotted, I guess you could say, third line. They signed
Probably.
Deneau. They signed Deneau to a sizable contract. They still have Kopitar. So, I mean, he's almost cemented as that third line center. And just let him play against, maybe the number 3 D pairs for each team. And I really believe that if he hits 40 points, it's probably going to be a really good season for the Kings, a playoff season almost for the
Yeah.
Kings, which we'll get into as well. Let's go over to Edmonton. I guess you could say their big offseason signing was Zach Hyman. Just probably, maybe I'm wearing the Leafs glasses here, but probably the best four checker in the NHL, I would say. He goes, he gets the puck, and he gets it to the guys who can score. So now he's going to do that with Connor McDavid. Is this going to have a massive impact for the Oilers?
Okay, hold on. Before I answer that question, Zach Hyman is not the best forechecker in the National Hockey League, right? And I'm sorry. He's up there, but he is not the best forechecker in the National Hockey League. Very good. Is he the answer for the Oilers? Can it be yes and no?
Well,
Like,
of course, everything in life is yes and no.
I think he's the answer for a possible line mate for McDavid, which is something that they've been looking for a very long time. Outside of Draisaitl, obviously, because those two are just unfair when they're on the ice together. But is he the actual answer for them having success in the playoffs? Him alone, absolutely not. It's just there's too many holes on that roster for one player to come in and be the answer. But is it a positive step for the Oilers to get a player like Hyman who can play on that top line with McDavid? Absolutely. Absolutely.
I saw the impact that he had with Matthews and how he went and got the puck. I believe he is an elite forechecker.
I'm
And I'm
okay with
not
you
looking.
saying that. Saying the best forechecker in the National Hockey League is very, very presumptuous.
No, that's my belief. I really believe, and he's not going to smoke anybody through the boards. He's not an elite scorer.
Yep.
He's not an elite playmaker. He's an elite forechecker, and I believe that he's the best in the league, Zach
Okay.
Hyman, because he goes and he's got all sorts of tricks in his bag to get the puck. It's not about plowing someone through the boards and knocking them down. He just frustrates the heck out of other players.
Fair
So
enough. Okay.
I think he's going to be a big impact. I think he's going to be a big playoff impact, and it makes the Edmonton Oilers. It's a big piece for their playoff aspirations. But if we keep looking at the Edmonton Oilers, of course, everything revolves around Connor McDavid there, and he would like the refs to call the rule book. I don't know if he's specifically referencing cross-checking, which is apparently going to be called to a T this year, but Nick, you got a little more on McDavid made some comments about what he wants to see the refs calling the rule book this year.
Yeah, I mean, he was asked about the rule book and the referees calling stuff in I guess like earlier this week, I should say. And this is what he had to say. You obviously want to call the rule book. That's what it's there for. If you call each and every one, there will be lots of penalties. But if there's a lot of penalties, that's just the way it is. The rule book is there for a reason, and you want it called with integrity. And and he also said, if you let guys get away with certain things, they're going to keep getting away with it. And I think that's the big thing. And this is what you and me talked about a lot, especially in the playoffs last year, is that some calls are just getting let go. They're not calling it. And it's happening in the regular season. It's happening in the playoffs. but it's in the rule book for a reason. Cross checks are in the rule book for a reason, right? Boarding is in the rule book for a reason.
I
Charging is in the rule book for a reason. There's a reason that it's there. So if you're not calling it, then you need to have a reason to pull it out of the rule book. And if you want to pull rules from the rule book, that's one thing, right? If you don't want to call them anymore, you pull them from the rule book so that everyone plays with the same rule book. But if you're only calling them for certain players or certain situations, it's not really fair. And I actually like what McDavid said, because he wasn't calling out the refs. He's just saying that they have been calling it consistently without calling it consistently, if you know what I mean. Like certain calls they call consistently, certain calls they let go consistently, and that's a problem.
This happens a lot in the NHL where they say we're going to crack down on this certain instance happening. And most of the time, the crackdown either goes by the wayside by the new year and completely disappears by the playoffs. I'd say the only time that I can remember it actually sticking is after the 2005 lockout. And they said they were going to come back and call obstruction way more serious. And they did. And there was, 13, 15 penalties a game. And, it took about a season, but the players got it. And then more recently, when you get your stick in the opposing player's hands, that's was
Yes,
a
that's a good
crackdown.
call too.
Yeah, that got called. So it needs to be in line with this. We're going to have a lot of cross-checking penalties. We're going to have a lot of cross-checking penalties that people don't agree with. So, again, I think
Deal with it.
I think what McDavid is saying, deal with it. This is going to happen. If you let players get away with it, then you're just going to have cross checks throwing all over the place. So it's kind of on the referee's shoulders now. And they're going to make errors, just like the players are going to make errors. And let's hope by the new year that everything's kind of evened out and people know what's a penalty and what's not a penalty.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're going to have to wait on and see. But as long as they're calling it consistently, as long as all the refs are doing the same thing in every game, the players will learn quick. Like, yes, there's probably going to be a lot of penalties at the beginning. No doubt about it. There wasn't many in the Leaf game last night, in the preseason game. I will admit that. I think there was only like 5 penalties the whole game, which is very rare for a preseason game, considering all the guys are really rusty and you just expect them to stick the sticks out, right?
Especially because that Leafs Habs games was half NHL, half AHL.
Half is very, very generous.
They met their minimums, whatever the minimum is.
I know, but half is very, very generous. I was working that game. It's very, very generous. But you get what I mean, though, right? Like, we will see a lot more penalties in the beginning of the season until the players figure it out. And you know what? I'm okay with that as long as it's consistently called across all the games. Like, if a cross-check is a cross-check in one game, it should be the same cross-check in another game. It shouldn't be let go. That's all I care about. And I think that's all McDavid's trying to say is that, listen, if we're calling it consistently, it's fine. If we're letting things go, we need to take it out of the rulebook. That's all he's really asking.
Yeah, and I think we both agree with him. So we'll see. Again, it's on the referee's shoulders. Looking down south to San Jose, and it's now
back to Cali.
Yeah, it's now a saga with Evander Kane. Just there was the gambling and the accusations from the ex-wife that he gambled on NHL and Sharks games as well. Now there was an investigation that's been proven from the NHL standpoint not to be true. Now there's accusations and restraining orders of domestic abuse, and he's not invited to Sharks camp at this point. And that's the right move from San Jose, because
absolutely
his life is just a circus right now. And it's almost like the bankruptcy thing is taking a back seat because you have so many accusations from both parties, him and his ex-wife, flying around that are becoming public. They want to make these accusations public. They want to make this fight public. It's just a circus, and you do not need that around this team right now.
No, and I think the Sharks did the right thing. It does suck because if these accusations are proven to be wrong, they're losing one of their, it's really sad to say, one of their better scorers and one of their better players right now, because the Sharks are awful. They're really bad.
They'll need scoring, and
right. But no, they did the right thing. I agree with you, Ryan. Though 100%, it's the right decision for the Sharks organization to not bring Evander Kane to training camp and not bring him to the preseason. And once the accusation or once the investigation or whatever they're going into about the sexual assaults and stuff like that is handled and dealt with, then as long as he's proven that he hasn't done it, of course, then you bring him back, and it's fine because he was proven that he didn't bet on Sharks games or NHL games for that matter. Period. There's no evidence of that, and that was the accusation first.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, fine. So if that's clear, and now his wife is accusing him of, or ex-wife, what I don't know what their situation is currently. I think it's still wife.
Yeah, let's just say ex-wife. It would be
Yeah.
hard to think that they're back together after all this.
Well, no, I don't think they're back together, but I also don't think they're
Right.
divorced yet. So
Soon, whatever.
separated, estranged person,
Yeah.
a strange individual is the same person who did both accusations. There's a chance that these ones are false as well, right? So we have to wait and see, I think, at that point.
We don't know. It's a wait and see, but
yeah,
do what you got to do. And if you've done something, then yeah, you're paying the price.
absolutely.
If you haven't done something, do what you have to do to get this chapter done with.
Right.
And if he hasn't done anything, if he can come back and it's kind of a fresh start for him, and maybe that's what he needs if he hasn't done anything. So, Nick, it's preview time. It's time to actually talk about some teams and how we think they're going to perform. Are you ready to go on this one?
I think so. I think so. I'm stressed
All
out.
right.
I think I'm okay.
Pacific Division. Here we go. So what we're going to do here is we're going to preview the division by talking about we each have a team that we think will succeed. We have a team that we will meet expectations, and we will have a team that will disappoint as far as their expectation goes. After we do that, we will get into our actual standings predictions and where we think each team will finish. And then we'll wrap it up with a nice Pacific Division bow at the end of that. But Nick, I will go first, and we'll talk about the team that will meet everyone's expectations. For me, high expectations in Vegas, even though their Vezina Trophy goalie has been traded away for nothing, but they will meet those expectations. I predict them to do quite well in this division. The Vegas Golden Knights will not be taking a step back. They will be the team that we saw last year.
And that's fair. I think, yes, obviously you're losing Marc-Andre Fleury, but you still have Robin Lehner, and he's proven to be a pretty good goalie.
Not bad, yeah.
Not bad. Not a bad backup. The team is pretty much still intact for the most part. A couple small pieces here and there, but overall, I think the Vegas Golden Knights are a strong team, and you nailed it on the head there, right? Like, they're going to be a good team, and it's just going to be how good can they be in the regular season, and will it carry over to the playoffs, right? Like, I think that's the biggest question.
Yeah, and they're two additions. I mean, I like Nolan Patrick on the third line there. I like the potential of Nolan Patrick. This guy was a high draft pick. He's now got a new team, new start there. So let's see what he can do. And I'm not saying he will succeed, but I like the situation they're giving him. There's enough scoring there. Put him on the third line. We'll see what he can do. And Laurent Brossoit as the backup goalie. Again, another solid goaltending tandem there in Vegas. So they will meet the expectations. You can expect them to do quite well in the Pacific Division.
Also, don't sleep on the two potential line mates for Nolan Patrick on that third line, who they also picked up in Evgeny Dadonov from Ottawa, who could be a very, very sneaky good addition because he had a good season, and then he went to Ottawa. He did well, but not great. Now he's going to be playing with Nolan Patrick and Matthias Janmark, who I thought played pretty well last season. I know it was with Chicago, and they weren't exactly a high-scoring team, but I think it was Chicago, right? Am I crazy? No, sorry. Yeah, it was Chicago. Yeah. But he had 19 points in 41 games for Chicago, 5 in 15 for Vegas when they picked him up at the trade deadline. He was a solid piece in the playoffs. Now get a chance to play with Patrick and Dadonov in this kind of new look third line. I kind of like it. I think it's a good addition. You mentioned Brossoit. Obviously, he's a good pickup as well. So they're in a good spot. I think they'll be okay.
And who's going to meet expectations from your end, Nick?
Well, it's the other team that we kind of just expect to do well from this division, and that's Edmonton. just because I think they're gonna do exactly what everyone thinks they're gonna do. But like, I don't know if that's good enough though. Like, I think we all think that they're gonna make the playoffs. I think we all think that they're gonna do that well. I think Connor McDavid's gonna lead the league in points, and I think Leon Draisaitl is gonna be right there with him. And I don't know if that's good enough anymore, Ryan. Like,
Well,
it's
we talked about the Hyman edition, and I think that pushes them over the edge. And Duncan Keith, I hope the expectations there aren't too high, but he's coming in with lots of playoff experience, championship pedigree. So
and I like
just
the
get
addition of Warren Fogle as well. And like, don't get me wrong, I like their additions. I think they're good additions. But is it good enough to beat Vegas in the second round?
no, I don't think they can get past Vegas. But I think let's start with a first round victory because it hasn't happened yet. Well, they have one with
But that's what
McDavid,
I
but
mean, right? Like, first and second round is not good enough for this team right now. They need to like everyone wants them to do better, but we just expect a first or second round exit out of this team. That's what I'm saying, right? So they're going to meet the expectation, but is it good enough? I don't know if it's good enough, but they're still going to be a good team. They're going to be
yeah,
a top team in this division. Like,
yeah.
that's a crazy thing to say, but I don't think it's good enough anymore. Like, they need to do something to beat Vegas in that second round to prove this is a successful season.
Interesting. Yeah, I think getting out of the first round obviously
Well, yes,
is
but
something
that's
that needs to happen, and I think they can do it this year. Yeah, getting past Vegas will be a challenge, but if they can put some question marks, if it comes down to that, if they can put some question marks as to if they can actually beat Vegas, or if Vegas, has some trouble with them, that I might consider that a success. But I don't see them getting out of this division as far as the playoff tree goes there. So,
I don't
but
either.
I think you hit it right on the nail, right on the head there.
Thank you.
Edmonton will meet expectations. Like they will be right there, right exactly where we thought they were. And we think Hyman's going to work with McDavid, and we think McDavid's going to score 600 points this year. It should all work out fine.
200, 200.
200. All right. Um, let's talk about teams that will exceed expectations here. I have my idea, but Nick, you go first on teams
Ooh, I
that
get to
will.
go first.
Yeah.
Okay, this one's going to surprise you a little bit, Ryan, I think. But I'm going with the team that we've already talked about today, and that's the LA Kings. I think they're going
Yes.
to exceed the expectations because they're building something in LA. They got a lot of good young guys, and that's the key. They're young guys, including their goalie Cal Peterson, who I think is going to be kind of the 1A to Jonathan Quick's 1B right now. Probably maybe even a full 1 with Jonathan Quick being the backup depending on how they want to kind of ease him into the whole situation. But they have a lot of good young pieces. We talked about Byfield. How would I follow? He looked really good. He's going to be on their top line. Most likely, I should say. I can't guarantee he's going to be on their top line. They added Philip Deneau. They added Victor Arvidsson. Andre Athanasiou, Gabe Velarde is only 22. He had a good year last year. Brandon Lemieux, I liked him when he's played. They have a young couple defensemen in Anderson and Bjornfot and Waugh. They're young. I think they're building to be a very, very competitive team in 2 or 3 years. And this year, everyone is expecting them to be bottom 3, maybe even bottom 2, depending on who you talk to in this division. I think that they will exceed that. Maybe push for four, but more realistically, maybe a 5, and surprise one team. But I think they're going to exceed everyone's expectations of what they want this team to be, because I also do think that Cal Peterson and Jonathan Quick make a very, very strong goaltending duo. And when you have good goaltending, that helps a lot when you're trying to exceed expectations, as we saw with Chicago last year, who had Malcolm Subban and Lankinen play out of their minds, and they exceeded everyone's expectations.
Yeah. I was listening to 32 Thoughts podcast with Elliot Friedman, and they were
Is it
interviewing.
32 thoughts now?
It's now 32 Thoughts. Oh, that's Sportsnet. You're a TSN guy. We can't talk about that. But they were interviewing Drew Doughty at the media event last week in New York, and he was talking about the Kings are ready to win now. He's him and Kopitar and Dustin Brown. They're fed up with the rebuild. They hated it, and now that they feel they're ready to compete now. and the pieces are there. For me personally, I need to see it. They look like nice pieces right now, but I'm looking for that great piece. Who's gonna, someone's gonna have to take it over from Kopitar eventually, and
Let me
someone's gonna
uh,
have to take it over from Doughty
yeah, let me throw something
eventually.
in here, and then I think this is really really interesting. Okay, Cap Friendly has their projected line combinations. Byfield's actually not on it. We'll see where he actually ends up in the lineup. I think he will make the jump. I don't know where he'll end up. But the current top nine of Iafallo, Kopitar, Brown, Kempe, Deno, Arvidsson, Athanasiou, Velarde, and Trevor Moore, the combined nine, not a single player on that nine had less than 23 points last year.
They can score. They have
And I think
talent.
they're going to. So, what I think they're going to do is just absolutely run you around because they have three lines who can probably put up points this year, which is interesting. Like, that's something that we don't see very often. We saw from Vegas, right? The year that they surprised everybody. I don't think the Kings are going to be like Vegas was, but I do think they're better than everyone expects them to be.
Yes, I believe that they are better. I think you're right on that one, Nick.
So they will
Um,
exceed. I think exceed was the right
you're
word.
right. Yep, you've done right there. A team that I think is kind of in the same area there as Seattle, same category. So my team to exceed, the Seattle Kraken. I
You
mean,
realize you
this
just said that they're in the same area as Seattle?
I gave
You
away my
gave it
team early.
away. You gave it away.
I think Seattle's in the same category as Los Angeles as far as where they could finish in this division. They could be good enough to make it, and they could also just not quite be good enough. But they're an expansion team, and nobody ever expects anything from an expansion team. I like the defense on this team. And I think this defense is good enough to get them into battling for a playoff spot. Grubauer and Drieger as the tandem there. Love that. I love Giordano
Groovy, 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 groovy.
I love Giordano on defense. Alexiak is there too. I just think they have a really solid NHL worthy defense, and the problem for them may be scoring goals. But as far as keeping the puck out of their own net, as long as everyone just plays to who they are, don't try and do anything more. This team is going to battle and maybe make the playoffs. I think this is an excellent defensive team, and they will exceed expectations because expectations are low, I think.
Yeah, it's weird. I feel like some people are going to put too much expectations because of what Vegas did on Seattle, which isn't fair to Seattle. But I think the realistic expectations most people have is they won't be a playoff team. I agree with you. I actually think they will fight for the playoffs. The only real question for me is who's going to score the goals outside of the top line? Because they didn't have anyone with more than 17 goals last year.
Schwartz can score. He can
Right.
score.
I know he missed a bunch of games, but he played 40 games last year and he only had 8 goals.
Yeah, and they're
Right.
hoping for Seattle's hoping for a breakthrough here.
Right. They have
And
two guys who had 17 in Wenberg and Donskoy, who they have currently slotted on the third line, which is not
that's
happening. He will be a second line player on this team.
you
No
think so?
offense, Mason Appleton.
I, I don't know. I'm okay with that, but I mean, we'll see where it goes. It's whatever. They've had
Okay,
4
but they
games. You
have
can't.
Kalle Yarncroke, Marcus Johansson, and Mason Appleton as the second line, and then they have Jared McCann, Morgan Geeky, and Jonas Donskoy as listed as the third line on Cap Friendly. I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. Those are not going to be the line combinations. Besides the point, though. But yeah, I agree with you. The defense is really, really strong. When you have a top pair of Vince Dunn and Adam Larson, followed by Mark Giordano and Jamie Oleksiak, it's like, okay,
It's
that's a solid four. And then Carson Soucy and Hayden Fleury is your 5-6. It's like, okay, yeah. Maybe even Jeremy Lauzon makes a break into that lineup too. Like, I don't know who's really going to be that bottom half. They also have Cale Fleury. Like, we can't forget about him. Like, they have a lot of good defensemen. So,
yeah. I feel like they have a defensive core that's just gonna get the puck out, not let you move into the middle, and they're not gonna like injure you, but by the end of the game, you're gonna realize you have so many bruises because you tried to go down the boards against them or you tried to cut into the middle. They're
yeah.
just going to they're not gonna beat people up, but they're just gonna rough you up. They're just gonna make it a hard day at the office, and
I
I
really
love the
want to see.
defensive
I would
core.
like to point this out, Ryan. I really, 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 really want to see an all Fleury defensive pair.
it would be interesting. You might see it during the preseason. Maybe they can work something out there.
Well,
I
I
don't
think
know.
both of those guys are NHL capable defensemen, though. So, like, it would be interesting if they became a pair and they worked really well in training camp together because they know each other so well. Maybe it would be a good pair. Not to mention that one of them's left-handed, one of them's right-handed. Like, it kind of just like it screams it has to happen. It won't, probably won't, but I really want it to happen.
And yeah, we'll see what happens there. I mean, they've played an inter squad game, and right now they're playing a preseason game in Everett against the Canucks. So there's still time there,
Oh,
and we'll
those
see what
knuckleheads.
happens. Yeah, we'll see what happens with Seattle. Nick, it's time to talk about those teams that are going to disappoint us.
Wah,
And you
wah.
enjoyed going first last time, so I'll let you go first again on
I
the
get to go first
disappointing.
again. Wow, you're so kind today, Ryan. First, you
The
call me the best
disappointing.
co-host on earth, and
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
yeah, listen, I don't like talking about teams that are going to disappoint. It's never fun to talk about teams that are going in the wrong direction, but we have to do it. And for me, there's only one team in this division that I really think is going to disappoint off of expectations, and that's the Calgary Flames. They are not going in the right direction. I'm very, very concerned about this team because they don't seem to be coherent enough in camp to be able to have a direction to go at. Right? They just lost their captain in Giordano. I love Jacob Markstrom as a goaltender, but when you're behind a defense core of Hannafin, Anderson, Tanev, Zadorov, Goodbranson, Valimaki, and McKee, I'm just concerned that that's not enough depth, right? And he came from a Vancouver team that played a very specific system where he succeeded, right? Now he's in this Calgary team that doesn't play very good defense. Even with Giordano, they didn't play very good defense. And they can't score.
That's huge. Yeah.
They have no offense, like as much as I like Johnny Gaudreau in the NHL games, he had 19 goals last year in 56 games. That's not good enough for a number one option. Matthew
Gaudreau,
Tkachuk had 16 goals.
I said this last year, but Gaudreau got shut down 2 or 3 years ago by Colorado in the playoffs,
Yeah, he hasn't been the same.
and I haven't liked his game since. I mean, all I've seen him do is struggle, and I'm with you, Nick, here that the Calgary Flames are going to be the disappointing team from this division. That doesn't mean they're going to finish last, but I don't see them making the playoffs. And this is a team that kind of expects to make the playoffs, and
Well, they're
I
supposed to.
they're supposed to. I feel like the team is built to be a certain type of team, but then you got Daryl Sutter, the coach, and he just wants them to be a grind it out, shut it down defensive team and capitalize on the other team's mistakes. So that's a kind of a 3-1, a 2-1, 2-0 type game. And I guess if you can't score, that works for them. But
But they
I
can't
think they
play
want
defense either.
yeah,
That's the problem.
they're not. You're trying to. It seems like you're trying to shift the whole team when it's kind of a make or break year where you got to make the playoffs, or we're kind of shuffling these players out and redoing it. So it just sounds like a recipe for a mess.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's the problem is that, like, it could be a mess. It could be a very, very big mess. And that's not good enough right now. They literally just need something that works well, and they don't have it. They haven't figured out the system that is going to play. They haven't figured out how they're going to put this team together, and I just don't know. I don't think it's gonna go well, Ryan. I really don't.
It's like a lot of pieces that just aren't quite there. Like they have pieces. You look at the lineup, they have pieces, but it's just doesn't. They're they're not fitting the puzzle.
No,
It's not even making a puzzle. It's just a bag of pieces right
it's
now
just yeah,
in
that's
Calgary.
literally what it is. It's a bag of pieces, and it's not a good bag of pieces at this point in time. It's a
No, they're not.
bad bag of pieces, and it's a problem right now. And I don't like the direction that they're heading. I hope that they can turn it around because there are, as you said, there's good pieces in here. Jacob Markstrom is a good piece. Noah Hannafin is a good piece. I want to say Johnny Gaudreau and Sean Monahan are good pieces, but I can't. I'm struggling to say that the last couple of years. Matthew
I like.
Kachuk is a good piece to have on a team, but he also comes with his own issues. Right?
Yeah,
I
I don't
think
like.
he's more consistent of a player right now than Johnny Gaudreau and Sean Monahan, which is an issue.
I do like the addition of Blake Coleman. If we want to talk about a positive in Calgary, that works, but that's like one person
But
that
here's
that works.
okay. So I heard someone say this recently, and I think it was actually Al's brother on Overdrive. Just because I was listening on my way into work. And he said he's worried that Blake Coleman has David Clarkson esque vibes. One good season, big body guy who goes to a new team and doesn't have that success. I don't think it's going to end up like that, but there's always that possibility that Blake Coleman was perfect for the Tampa system. And then
Yep.
he's going to go somewhere else and they're going to expect bigger things because he had such a good season. And that $4.9 million contract isn't going to look good in 3 months.
We'll see. Definitely see where that goes. I like the addition, so I'm projecting good things in Calgary for Blake Coleman, but I'm not projecting good things for the Calgary Flames. And
No, I
you and
want
I
there to be
both
good
have,
things. I want there to
yeah,
be
but
good things for
you
Blake
and I
Coleman.
both have them down to disappoint this year. So
Yes.
we'll see where everything lands. We'll also see what our predictions are for standings this year in the Pacific Division. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be coming right back with our division predictions.
Hey everyone, this is Irfan Manji from Touchline Thoughts. We are an all soccer podcast hosted by yours truly with guests every episode. We provide news, analysis, and opinions every episode as well. Touchline Thoughts is powered by the Garage Door Sports Network, and you can listen to us on your favorite podcatcher. Cheers.
Nick McVicker back with you on 20 Minutes on Ice. It's our first show of the season. It's preseason for us, so if we're a little rusty, it's because we got to work out the kinks. But by the time game one rolls around, we'll be ready to go. Nick, it's fine because now we got to talk about. We've talked about players and storylines and teams that'll disappoint and exceed, but now we got to put it down, set it in stone, so that we can come back and review it at the end of the season. We'll talk about where each team is going to finish in the standings here in the Pacific Division. And just before we get into it, you know what is driving me nuts? And it's just a little thing
Uh-oh.
that's driving me nuts is how the
Is it in my
playoffs.
background?
No, it's not in your back. It's the playoff format. And 1, 2, and 3 in each division still make the playoffs. But we're still doing this wild card thing for the remaining teams. And that was only put in when the divisions were uneven. When we had a division, we had two divisions with 7 teams in them. And so teams complained, oh, it was easier to make the playoffs in those divisions. So they set up this whole wild card system for the bottom 2. We have even divisions now. Let's have divisional playoffs because that makes it. I love divisional playoffs.
Yes,
And
but
that's
what if
probably
one division is god awful and the third place team isn't even good enough to be sixth in the other division?
it happens.
That's what I mean,
That
though. Like, so I don't mind the wild card because it gives, on the off year where the next two teams in the one division are better than the fourth place team in the other division, it gives a chance for more good teams to be in the playoffs.
if we're going to do that though, and I understand that point of view, then we'll just use divisions for scheduling
Yeah,
and let's just go 1 through 16 and put the 16 best teams in the playoffs. It's
I
like the
wouldn't mind
people.
that. I don't care. That
Yeah,
doesn't bother me.
and we're not going to do that because of travel and all that kind of stuff. But I like 1 through 16 if we're going to do that.
Yeah,
And
I don't mind that. That's fine.
it goes along with the same people who get mad when a Cinderella team makes it through, and they would rather see the top 2 teams play each other and that kind of stuff. But
I
anyways,
don't.
that's
The whole point of March Madness is Cinderella stories. Come on, what are you talking about?
yeah, I know. That's why I love the playoffs. And but we'll have to wait until we get to the playoffs. We still have a preseason and regular season to get through, and we have this Pacific Division standings to get through. Nick, let's start from the bottom and work our way up to the better teams.
Okay, we got the graphics ready to go. Let's do it, Rye.
Look,
Who's
look
starting?
at the board on your screen. This is some high quality stuff here.
Oh, you just
Nick,
wait.
Nick, I'm gonna start if you don't mind.
Oh, it's all you, dude.
And I know you have 8th place written there. If there were a few spots lower, this is where I would put this team. And this is the Anaheim Ducks. Um, this is a team that they have they have 2 bright spots. Let's say 2 bright spots going for them. They have John Gibson and net, who they're just wasting. This
Oh,
is a
that poor
career
guy,
wasted.
man.
I know. Like he would be Vezina Trophy candidate if
Well,
he could make the playoffs.
he'd be a top 5 goalie.
Yeah.
Vezina goalie. I hate saying that because any season a goalie could have a really great year, right? Like I don't like using that as a determining thing. He would be a top 5 goalie if he wasn't playing on Anaheim.
Yeah, he could be on Team USA going to the Olympics here,
He will be.
and he will be, and he could be their starter too. I don't know if they'll put him in net.
That's a whole nother issue.
Yeah, that's a whole other issue. So Anaheim, I wish I could put them lower than 8th, and I don't know how Dallas Eakins made it through this offseason. For me now, he's had the run in Edmonton, he's had the run in Anaheim. He's not an NHL coach, I don't believe.
Assistant, maybe.
Assistant, maybe he does well at the AHL level. He did well with the Marlies. He did well with the Gulls in San Diego. But I think when he makes that jump to NHL, it hasn't worked out, and this team will continue to be a mess.
Absolutely. I agree with you, and that's why they are 8 on my list as well, Rye. Like, they're just not good enough right now, and it sucks because, as we said, Gibson is so good. Like, there's really no reason you should be this bad. And they have some good pieces, right? Jamie Drysdale is a very, very solid defenseman prospect. Fowler is a very good player. Hampus Lindholm
like
is a very good player. Manson is even a
Fowler is a
very good
guy.
defenseman. Now they added
talk on-
Shattenkirk as well. Like,
Yeah, I just want to talk about Fowler though. That I feel like that's a career almost winding down. It feels like he's totally forgotten. This guy was supposed to be a top defenseman again, someone who could play on the U.S. Olympic team, and he's just been buried in Anaheim.
well, the sad part is that I just named off 4 defensemen, 5 if you count Shattenkirk because he's going to be on the bottom pair anyway. So let's say 5 defensemen as players who would be very good. So what's the problem here? Oh, yeah, the forwards forget how to play defense, and they can't score, and there's issues there. There's huge, huge issues on this forward group. And Max Comtois, yeah, he looked good.
They do have who are they adding this year? Guy who excelled at the juniors, Trevor Zegras.
Yeah, Trevor Zegras, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, he'll need to have almost a Calder season.
Yeah, but between him and Sam Steele, both kind of young guys, along with Comtois, like when your 3 biggest players are under 23 years of age, like that's an issue on the forward group. Usually you need someone with experience up there to do something, but they don't have it. This is the Ottawa Senators all over again, where you have too many young guys and you don't have any veteran presence. And
just Getzlaff. Well, they're counting on Getzlaff and Ricard Raquel and Silverberg. So we'll see what happens there. But I just see
not
no
good enough.
hope.
They're not good enough anymore. That's the problem.
I agree.
Henrique as well. I know Henrique is there. I can't really rip on Henrique. I thought he had a decent year despite playing for the Anaheim Ducks last year.
They need everyone to play better.
Yeah.
And that rarely, if ever, happens.
Yeah,
on a
exactly.
team. So, Anaheim, both of us have them in 8th. Going on to 7th spot, it's a team that really thinks, for me, they really think they're better than they are, but I don't see them making any strides here. San Jose Sharks, I have finishing 7th in this division. There might be, reason for success here on this team, but I haven't seen enough changes. And the biggest thing that scares me about the San Jose Sharks, they're going into the season with a goaltending tandem of James Reimer and Aiden Hill. That's, for me, not going to
That's concerning.
That's not going to get the job done. They still got Brent Burns and Carlson on the back end, but again, they're kind of becoming forgotten because that entire team isn't playing up to its capabilities.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Rye, and that's why San Jose's 7 on my list too. Like, they're just not good enough.
No, I don't see it happening here.
It's sad because, as you said, they have good pieces, but good pieces can only get you so far. And right now, they're just those good pieces aren't even getting them that far because they aren't playing well. And
look at Tomas Hertl. He's could be their number 2 center there. They're not going to have Evander Kane, and apparently Hertl, there's rumors that he wants out, or they're trying to move him. So it's just
it wouldn't surprise me. Like,
yeah, it's like a team just kind of surrounded by bad news.
Yeah, That's exactly what it is. And again, there's really no reason for it. Like they shouldn't be this downtrodden because they have the pieces, Rye. Like
Like Logan Couture is a superstar,
yeah.
and again, it's a situation where it's the talent's almost being wasted. So, you and I both have the San Jose Sharks at 7th in the Pacific Division. Now, for my next three slots, 4, 5, and 6, you could almost shake these guys up, and they could fall anywhere in these next. I almost might include 3, 4, 5, 6. Those teams for me, they could fall anywhere in those four slots, but we had to make a decision. So there's just not a
Yeah,
belief
I forced
enough.
him to, folks. He made me tell him to make a decision, so I made him make a decision.
There's not enough belief on my part, so I have the Los Angeles Kings in 6th place. I fully understand that they very much could finish higher. I just don't have enough belief in that team right now, so I put them in the number 6 spot for me.
And you know what? It's funny, right? Because like I get I get what you're saying there. Like there is question marks. I'm not going to lie about that. There obviously is question marks, but is it a question mark that can't be solved this year? That's the biggest thing for me. And there's another team that I think will finish below them. So I don't have the Kings there, but tell me, like, give me a reason why these Kings are going to finish 6th behind everybody else quickly.
Their forward group, again, there's not enough game breakers or exciting players there. So I just don't think it's enough to push them over the edge, and that's why I have them at 6th.
Okay, fair enough. And I can't really argue with that because it's right. Like it's a valid point, and
They could prove me wrong this year. Like they have the capability of doing it, but I'm predicting they don't.
that's fair. Okay. Because I don't have them there, and sorry, I'm looking something up quickly. Um, but yeah, like I don't have them there, but I can see why you put them there, and I have instead, and you're gonna hate this. Well, not hate it, but you're not gonna love it. I have the Calgary Flames,
Mhm.
and I just
I
don't
could
see it working. I want it to. I think they have, as I said, I think they have the pieces to make it work, but it's not working, man. Something is off with the Calgary Flames, and I don't have an answer as to what. So they are going to finish 6th because I do think the Kings are going to figure some small things out. Not all of it. I don't think the Kings are going to have this thing figured out by the end of the season and make the playoffs, which kind of gives away my next pick. But I do think they will do better than the Calgary Flames when all is said and done.
like I mentioned, my 3, 4, 5, 6 teams could finish anywhere in that 4 team group there. So I have the Calgary Flames at 5. I'm like you. I don't believe they're a playoff team. They do have more established names, which I guess is why I wanted to put the Flames ahead of the Kings in my predictions.
And that's fair.
But again, and Markstrom could get hot, and they could end up in 3rd place in the division because all of a sudden Markstrom gets hot, and it just seems to solve some of their defensive problems. But I don't believe, just like you, the Calgary Flames are a playoff team. The pieces aren't fitting. There's something not right in Calgary, and this is going to be the last run for that squad.
We hope.
I don't hope for that, but that's what I believe will happen.
No, but I mean, like, if they don't succeed, you hope it's the last run for that squad. But because, like,
I guess you could say that. Yeah, I just think they'll tear the team apart if they don't.
but that's what I mean, right? Like,
Yeah.
if they don't succeed this year, it kind of has to be the last hurrah for this squad. Like,
Yes.
they can't keep doing this year over year. It's just it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And they'll have to redo everything there in Calgary. But again, that's an off-season discussion, or maybe a January 1st discussion when we look at the standings here. So
Start the new year off right.
we'll see how the cards fall or how the chips lay or whatever they say. But Nick, who's your number 5 team here?
I already
in the
gave it
Pacific?
away. So it's the LA Kings. I have them finishing 5th because I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but I think they're going to be better than Calgary. So simple,
enough.
done. Boom.
All right, number 4. I guess you could say this is a playoff team. if you're going by the format that I want. But this is a team. This is a team that's
Tell
going
me
to
how you
be
really
in,
feel, right?
this is a team that's going to be in that wild card battle, and I'm putting the Seattle Kraken here in this spot. I mentioned that I love their defensive core. They're going to beat you up. They're going to frustrate you. They're going to make it a hard day at the office, and I think that is enough to put this team in the playoff hunt. Now, again, I mentioned three through six for me can be shuffled up, but just based on who is on that defensive core, I love the goaltending there. I don't think they'll score enough, but they'll score just enough to be in a playoff spot hunt. So that's why I have the Kraken at number 4.
I don't think they'll score enough, but they'll score just enough. What?
Just they won't score enough to be a great team or a guaranteed playoff team. They're just going to score enough to be in a playoff battle.
Okay.
And that's not enough to consider succeeding.
Okay. See, I have my next 3 teams are in a tier above the Kings and Flames, in my opinion. So you have 3 through 6 are interchangeable. I have 2 through 4 are interchangeable in my head. And instead of the Seattle Kraken, I'm going with the Vancouver Knuckleheads. I think having a full season and with hopefully no COVID issues, obviously that's the goal at this point for this Vancouver team. They have the pieces to do really, really well. Will they succeed? Well, we're going to wait and see. But I think they have the ability to be a good team. I just worry about that defense a little bit. Obviously, they have Quinn Hughes, and don't get me wrong, Quinn Hughes is fantastic, and I think he's going to do wonders for this Vancouver team once they sign him.
He'll be there. They'll sign him.
Right? But Ekman Larsson is a good piece. Tyler Myers is a good piece. Travis Hamonic is a good piece. But can they play together? Can they figure out a system that works in front of the young Thatcher Demko? Bringing in Halak is a great little bonus, but little safety net, obviously. And then the other question is, who's going to score? It's kind of similar to Seattle. Like, who's going to score for these two teams? I think if we're going comparison, that's very comparable. We don't really know who's going to score outside of maybe the top lines for both of these two teams.
I do like their top 4. Besser, Pedersen. I would count on JT Miller. I think Miller can put in 20 here.
Yeah, I'm okay with Miller. I'm not arguing that one.
Yeah.
But I still want to see more from the next group of people. Like the top line, yeah, that's fine. Top line from Seattle with Eberle, Schwartz, and I'm blanking. Who's the center there, Rye?
In Seattle?
Yeah.
Thanks for putting me on the spot here. Yanni Gord, he'll be injured, but they have Wenberg.
Wenberg, that's the one I'm looking for, right?
Okay.
That trio can score. I'm okay with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the secondary scoring that is going to be the question for both of these two teams. And if I'm looking at it, I would prefer the Seattle Kraken defense and goaltending duo with Drieger as opposed to the Canucks defense with Demko. Not that I don't like Demko. I think he's going to be a great goaltender. I've said this many times, so this isn't news. I just think in this scenario, I would take Seattle over Vancouver right now.
Demko, another interesting guy, could end up on the U.S. Olympic team. So we'll see where that
potentially,
lands.
Yes.
I love the goaltending tandem. I think it's a goaltending tandem that you just know it's going to work. Halak seems like a real team guy to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're just going to be able to allow Demko to flourish here in this situation. I love the addition of Tucker Poolman too to that defense core, and he can move up to 4 if needed. If you see Hamonic regressing,
yeah,
and Oliver Ekman Larsson, yeah, later on the contract might be a problem, but I think you're going to get at least 2 good years.
Absolutely. I'm just comparing the 6, right? You have to compare the 6 for each team in Seattle and Vancouver, and I just think the Seattle 6 are better than the Vancouver 6 right now.
And we'll see. So I got Vancouver at number 3. That's my 3 team because I like their additions and that defense. Again, I see NHL names when I see that defense.
Luke Schenn.
For me, their NHL names run 5 deep, and I think that shows a lot.
I think their NHL names run 7 deep. Honestly, like don't get me wrong. I think this is an NHL defense core.
Absolutely. And I'm interested to see what Connor Garland can do there as well on that Vancouver team. And I like Travis Green as a coach. I just think he's
You really do. You've told me this many times.
I think he's a new age coach, and I just think he gets it, and he can be hard on the players in a good way. That it's kind of that, oh, I hate that coach, but he's right. That kind of attitude. So I like where the Canucks are headed at this point. So I do have them in my number 3 spot.
And I'm okay with that, Ryan. And I have Seattle in my 3 spot. So there you go. We're even.
And we've talked about both those teams and why they're going to be in that spot. And you said your 2 through 4 could be shuffled, and my 3 through 6 could be shuffled. So we'll see where this ends up at the end of the year. It looks like we are going to have the same 2 teams, either 1-2. We'll see where this lands. My number 2 team, we talked about them extensively, the Edmonton Oilers. I like the addition of Zach Hyman. I like the addition of Duncan Keith. I'm not expecting him to be Stanley Cup champion level Duncan Keith, but he's bringing that into the room, and people can view his work ethic and how he's going to conduct himself on this team. And I think that'll elevate the defense core there. Plus, you have the greatest player in the world, Connor McDavid, who's just always out to prove something. He's going to try and top his points per game pace from last year, which was it was 2, wasn't it? Or nearly 2, just under 2. He's going to go out there and try and top it this year. So I like where the Oilers are headed, and I have them in my number 2 spot. Again, the big question mark on that team is the goaltending, because they're coming back with Smith and Koskinen again.
Yep.
Yep. Do you have the Oilers at number 2 along with me, Nick?
Yes, I do.
There you go.
I have them at number 2 just because I love Connor McDavid. I love Leon Draisaitl. I love what they've done together. I think they have very good pieces on the back end with Darnell Nurse. You mentioned Duncan Keith. I'm not 100% sold on that one, but I do like Tyson Barrie in that role.
Forgot about Barrie
as
there,
well,
yeah.
playing with Nurse. I think that's a good pair. Chris Russell is still there. Don't forget that. Evan Bouchard is going to take the next step this year. I'm calling it right now. He will be a consistent NHL defenseman. I still have question marks of where the secondary scoring is going to come from, because if we're going to assume that Zach Hyman is playing on the top line with McDavid, which I think that's a fair assumption at this point, and Warren Fogel's probably going to play on the second line with Leon Draisaitl, and the Nuge is probably going to be thrown on either one of those lines, or maybe he's going to send to the third line. I don't know.
No, Nuge is on the second line, and he's going to thrive this year. It's going to be a good year for the Nuge.
Right, but I just don't know where the scoring comes outside of those 4 players. Right? Like maybe 5. Sorry, 5 players technically, because I said Fogle. Like, I'm sorry, Zach Kassian is not a goal scorer.
But if you look at those 5 players and you look at the teams that you have listed underneath the Oilers, and I don't like any of those teams' offense more than I like the Oilers' offense.
I'm not saying that. That's why they're in second. But I'm saying if we're comparing them to the other team, like it's
for me here.
Just
Vegas is the runaway winner of this division.
Yeah.
And we kind of talked about this last year, or when we did our Seattle expansion draft show. And this division kind of becomes a weak division here. Like 1-2 seems pretty set to me, and there's still a gap between 1 and 2.
See, the one thing that I can say about the chance that Edmonton may fall down is because what you said, Ryan. Are you ready for this?
Yep.
They're bringing back the duo of Ryan Smith and Mikko Koskinen.
Mike Smith. They're not putting Ryan
Sorry,
Smith
Mike
in
Smith. It's Mike. Sorry. I was hoping they were bringing back Ryan Smith. He might help with scoring issues.
It might be okay, yeah, but I think he's set in retirement. So
I think he's pretty comfortable. But bringing back Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen. And no offense, like I liked what Mike Smith did last year. I thought he actually played very, very well. But he's another year older. And I'm sorry, Mikko Koskinen has not proven anything to me. Anything at all. So right now, I'm not happy enough with the goaltending situation. And if one of these teams in Vancouver or Seattle can kind of figure out their secondary scoring issues that I was just talking about, maybe they can pip Edmonton for second in the division. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but there's that possibility. Whereas Vegas, they're clearly better across pretty much every position.
They have such solid forwards. Like they don't really have an elite game breaker. They have really good
Stone.
forwards. I, yeah, but is Stone an elite? He's a superstar. But I'm talking about the next level
Oh,
up.
you're talking about
They,
like the McDavids and McKinnons, those guys, right?
those kind of guys, the needle movers almost. But I
Okay,
mean, I
my
like
fault.
Stone, Pacioretty, Marchessault. Who else do they have here?
Carlson,
Uh,
Riley Smith,
Perfect. Yeah, and
Nolan
the
Patrick. He's
addition,
the game
Nolan
breaker.
Patrick, Dadonov. I mean, it's just very deep there. The defense is extremely solid. For me, they're the clear number goaltending. We've talked about it. They're the clear number one
They're
in this
clearly, yeah.
division. Edmonton's clear number two, and then we'll see what happens after that. And Anaheim is the clear number 8.
They should be the clear number 8. San Jose might force their way in if they can't find any scoring, but
We'll see.
Anaheim should be number 8. San Jose should be easily number 7.
Let's recap the picks here quickly. Nick's picks: 8 Anaheim, 7 San Jose, 6 Calgary, 5 Los Angeles, 4 Vancouver, 3 Seattle, 2 Edmonton, 1 Vegas. Recapping my picks: Anaheim 8, San Jose 7, Los Angeles 6, Calgary 5, Seattle 4, Vancouver 3, Edmonton 2, and Vegas 1. Nick, lock in the picks and we'll revisit them at the end of the regular season to see how we're doing.
Locked in. What do you want me to do, Ryan?
Just do something there, but it's locked in.
Locked.
So. And there is the horn that brings an end to this 20 Minutes on Ice. Be sure to
I
subscribe.
guess the randomizer's still on vacation.
Randomizer's still on vacation, but when we do return to regular season shows, you'll be able to catch us live here on Twitch. We try to go every Sunday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern is when you can catch us live on Twitch. If you can't catch us live on Twitch, the shows become available on YouTube in video format. You can also download the audio version of the podcast as well. But Sunday night is the night for 20 Minutes on Ice as we go over the news and notes of the hockey world. And then we have our 3 Hot 3 Not segment, and we conclude each show with the randomizer, which is just kind of a fun game, a good way to end the show on a lighter note. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. Like I said, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You can follow me on Twitter at Ryan_H16. Follow Nick on Twitter at Nick McVicker. Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at 20 Minutes on Ice. You can also find all of our information on garagedoorsports.com. Find us and all the other network shows under the shows tab. We will be back later this week. We're aiming for Tuesday, again, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll be doing the Central Division preview. And then next weekend, we'll start getting into the Eastern Conference, preparing you for the coming NHL season. For Nick McVicker, I'm Ryan Haslett. Thanks for listening, everybody.